So it's about 3 after right now. I think we can start jumping into this. I see a couple people on. So without further ado, let me go ahead and introduce myself. My name is Michael Maust. I'm the lead solution architect at Akins IT. A lot of you probably worked with me before, but for the new people, if you're attending right now, it's good to meet you. And I just want to say this is our first webinar, live webinar right now, broadcasting live from our bat cave here at Akins IT. You can see the bat patents behind us. But what I'd like to talk about is the next generation firewall, and this is going to be the first series of events and seminars that we're going to be doing just to showcase some of the skill sets that we do here at Akins IT. A little bit about me. So I've been here for about 5 years now, and my specialties include wireless, network security, pen testing, and campus LAN and creation. So like I said, a lot of you probably worked with me before, and for the new people out there, it's good to meet you. I have a quick slide deck I'd like to talk about. We talk about security a lot here at Akins IT, and one of our biggest partners that we work with is Fortinet. So because of that, I'm going to be demonstrating some Fortinet features and features that you don't want to miss when it comes to a next generation firewall. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into it. So here we go, next generation NG firewall must-have features. First step we always look at is quality of service. So quality of service is your prioritization on the network, basically showing what priorities you have for certain cloud applications. A lot of things that we see nowadays are hosted PBX, where you have maybe a hosted VoIP solution like Jive or RingCentral. And we'll be demonstrating a RingCentral QoS demonstration in just a bit here. But we also have other applications like cloud gaming. So I know Fortnite might come out a lot, especially for kids out there. They want to have the best connection possible. And if you're in a situation where you're going to be allowing that on the network, this is a perfect way to ensure that you have high priority on the network. Different applications like voice over IP and video conferencing, they're very high. They have very high sensitivity to jitter and latency. And often we see calls breaking up and just bad service quality all around when you have low QoS. Basically, the network can become congested. Maybe your VLANs aren't created correctly, or maybe there's some other network configuration that's just causing massive congestion at your egress point to your firewall. Here, we can mitigate some of those issues by creating a QoS rule on the FortiGate firewall and making that overall experience a little bit better. So what we have here in our demonstration is a dedicated bandwidth rule for RingCentral or SIP traffic, that's your voice over IP traffic, and we're going to see how we can prioritize that traffic over other rules. A lot of you are familiar with the Fortinet GUI. So right here, we're in our traffic shaper policy under policy and objects. And here we have a quick demonstration of an Irvine location. This is where this particular firewall is located. And for RingCentral, right here, we're going to try to guarantee 5,000 kilobits of bandwidth. And that's going to be superseded over any other forwarding rule out there. So basically, when your internet goes, or when your network traffic goes out to the internet, it's going to hit this rule first if it's detected as SIP traffic. So here we're creating the actual rule. We're saying traffic priority is going to be the highest possible, as we see right here. Max bandwidth is going to be about 20,000 kilobits right here with a guaranteed bandwidth of 5,000. We can get a little bit more granular and do DSCP markings, but right now we're just going to be leaving it as is, creating our rule right here. And that's going to be shared. So it's going to be shared amongst all types of SIP traffic. In a bit here, we'll be showing what kind of destination IP addresses we'll be linking this particular rule to. But right now you can see this rule is in production and we have a current bandwidth of 2.24 kilobytes, which is not too much. But we also have no drop packets, which is good too. Again, high priority. After we create the rule, we're going to go to our traffic shaping policy. So here we have our destinations. Now these destinations are all RingCentral destinations. So it's going to say any traffic that's coming from our primary LANs, that's our LAN internal subnets, are going to go out to this RingCentral destination here, and it's going to apply this traffic shaper to it. Our outgoing interface is our primary, In this case, we have multiple circuits here, but we're just going to be looking at the primary for this example. I think the point here to look at is that this QoS is extremely simple to enable. We can enable scheduling, we can enable different services, but it's pretty turnkey. And in less than 10 minutes, we can get a basic QoS rule functioning correctly, and then alleviating some of the mess with the congestion if your circuit is oversaturated. And here for the proof, we go in our log and reports. We're going to sort by SIP traffic, and you can see now all our Polycom phones, which we would expect to have SIP traffic, is now going over that high priority rule. And again, with the FortiGate, it makes it really easy to look at our analytics here. It makes it very easy to look at our source or destination and any rules that are following it. So right now, we could actually do a test where we can oversaturate the bandwidth by maybe downloading a large file or something while keeping a phone call. What you should see is the priority of the SIP traffic hitting first, and then everything else is going to be lower priority. Now we can definitely do more logic to that. So if you want to do phones and maybe a gaming situation, like I said, Fortnite, we can definitely add an application filter to that and apply QoS to that as well. There's really no limit to the number of QoS rules that you can create. Again, we typically see in most enterprise accounts that they like the phones to be the highest priority because degradation happens pretty quickly if that bandwidth is completely sapped out. So again, this is one of the biggest features that we look for, QoS, and then by extension, SD-WAN, which we're going to talk about at a different webinar, but QoS right now is our focus. It's something that is often needed on the network, and for some of the non-next generation firewalls, it's simply not something that is natively supported. So again, this is something that you definitely want to look out for. Let's move on. This is a big one, SSL decryption. So right now, 73 of all US-based pages are encrypted natively. And that's really to help you guys out, from a security standpoint, because it means that I have a secure connection between my endpoint, my computer in this case, and the internet. So banking, websites at, Facebook, and other sites that you don't want your password or information to come out. Typically, you're going to see HTTPS, which is SSL-enabled traffic. Now, it becomes a challenge, especially maybe in an enterprise or school-like situation where you need to monitor that traffic and see exactly what the kids are looking at. A lot of schools just don't natively want to allow Facebook or Instagram to run. So it becomes a little challenging to actually look at that traffic and see, what's behind the encryption. Fortunately, a next generation firewall feature allows us to do deep packet inspection. That's a word that you probably heard before, or HTTPS filtering. So there's a couple differences between the both of them, and we'll get into each one. And for the demonstration, we're going to look at HTTPS filtering. Deep packet inspection requires a little bit more maneuvering and a little bit more configuration. But again, that's going to give you the best bang for your buck in terms of finding out what the kids are looking at, what your employees are looking at, or what really anyone's looking at, and then being able to enforce that or allow it accordingly. It's also great for analytics. So you can see, oh, maybe we're using applications that we just didn't know of or we weren't aware of. We call that shadow IT typically. And again, it's best to know what's in your network, especially for you network admins, than to not know at all and just see, oh, massive amount of terabytes have been downloaded in X number of days. So right here, we're going to look at HTTPS filtering, which is simply looking at the destination website, stripping the CNAME, stripping the CNAME before the actual packet becomes encrypted, and then determining what sort of website that person's looking at. In this case, we're going to be looking at facebook.com, really popular site out there, obviously, but one that comes up a lot. So here we're back in our FortiGate firewall. We're looking at our general LAN-to-WAN rule, and we're seeing that Facebook is allowed. So I'm able to go on facebook.com, I'm able to log in and see everything within the website. What we want to do right now is establish a blocked page, meaning that I can't view it. It's just going to do a white page where the page cannot be displayed. So we'll go back to our firewall here, and we'll look at the security profiles being applied to it. Right here, we have a general antivirus profile. We have an application control profile, which is what we're going to look at right now. And then we're going to start looking at the categories that application profile falls under. Here you can see that we have a lot of fleshed out categories already built out for you. We can create custom categories as well, but it's a lot easier to use what's already been tried and proven. Here you can just see there's thousands of applications ranging from AOL Instant Messenger to Amazon, all the way to Zoho, you can see here. But right now we're going to focus on Facebook. So here we go. Facebook will pull up a couple of different options within the Facebook portfolio. And right now, for the sake of ease and sanity, we're just going to block every single one. So that's going to be your facebook.com, the application on your phone, the messenger portion, pretty much everything. Here we set it explicitly to block. Add that to our application control. Look at our forwarding rule. We see that application has been applied. And there you go. Facebook.com is now blocked. And after a couple seconds here, it's going to eventually time out and say this page can't be displayed. Really on the back end, the firewall is blocking it. And we're going to see in just a moment here the logs that will demonstrate as such. So there I am, trying to look at Facebook. You can see Maust here pops up a couple times. That's me. And again, the FortiGate is tracking my IP address and username, which is very helpful, especially when you have a much bigger organization. You can see exactly who's using it and block or allow based off of that person. So there I am, I'm blocked. I picked up that application. You can see that Facebook is no longer allowed. Now I see some other stuff on the network right now, like BitTorrent, Microsoft. Obviously, we don't want to be blocking that. But again, this provides more insight to other applications going on your network, Shadow IT. Personally, I didn't know that BitTorrent was on our network, so that seems like something that I might want to look at a little bit more specifically down the road. So I'm glad I just caught that right now. Again, this is something that you definitely want to have in a next generation firewall because it gives you the ability to look at your layer 7, your application layer, and see what sort of applications are on your network and really mitigate against that. Really popular, like I said, in the education sector where we need to block multiple applications, both from a protection standpoint and bandwidth standpoint as well. We just don't want people BitTorrenting on the network, getting DMCA notices, piracy, all that, Netflix, things that just don't need to be looked at during your regular working hours or classroom hours. So this is going to be one of our biggest ones. This is point 3. This is a malware IPS prevention. Pretty much what the firewall is meant for, and really the security in a nutshell is protecting against malware and intrusion prevention from bad actors coming from outside your network, coming inside. So our use cases here are going to be internal to external malware enforcement. So maybe an employee's endpoint that has some malware on it or some adware on it, and they don't have endpoint protection. They try to phone out to the internet to maybe a botnet site or something malfeasant that way. We want to be able to mitigate against that and prevent that from happening before it actually hits the web. This is a supplement to endpoint protection. Now, security is multifaceted, so we want to ensure that we have both a nice endpoint protection that can protect your endpoints, but also create malware protection, IPS, intrusion prevention, adware protection as well on the firewall. This is also good for external, internal. So we have a lot of clients that have application websites or application servers rather that are facing the external web, be it in a DMZ or other quarantine subnet network. So what we'd like to look at right now is a simple malware test, and this is actually very helpful. I challenge all of you to visit the site metal.fortiguard.com because what it will do is it will create some artificial viruses on your network, and it will show you how protected are you, what's your overall security posture. Really cool. We're going to see it in real time, and we're going to see the actual firewall pick up these fake viruses, and it will show in the logs what kind of virus was picked up, how many, and again, most importantly, who was the user that actually viewed or tried to open up these viruses. So again, we're back in our FortiGate firewall. And we're going to look at our forwarding policy right here. Again, LAN to WAN, that's the one that we've been focusing on. And again, we're going to look at the security profile. We talked a little bit about the antivirus profile a bit earlier. Right now, we're just going to keep the default on, but that's going to be on. So basically, any LAN-to-WAN traffic, so internet traffic, is going to be looked at and inspected for viruses. After we add that, we're going to go ahead and go to our metal.fortiguard.com. And we're going to run the simple test to determine how good is your overall security. In a perfect world, we would run the test and everything would fail, meaning that it would be able to block all your viruses. But in this case, we're going to see what happens if your firewall does block it and is able to catch all the viruses in their tracks. It's going to run about a dozen different tests, and we'll see here every single one is being blocked by the FortiGate firewall. Take a couple minutes to run all the tests, but what it's going to be doing is going to be trying multiple zip files that are embedded within each other, which we often see. We might see a zip file that has multiple zip files embedded within it, sort of a nesting doll type situation. Basically, that's an effort to obfuscate itself and get by the firewall. A lot of firewalls don't have up-to-date virus definitions. It definitely would not be catching some of these. So now, most importantly, we're going to go to our logs and we're going to see these viruses hitting our firewall in real time here. So we go to log and report. We're going to click on the antivirus section here. And we're going to see that Maust, again, me. I'm looking at a lot of bad stuff over here. We can see all the different viruses that are failing to get through to our internal subnets and LAN segments. We can see that everything has been blocked. We can see the nature of the virus itself. We can see the source of where that virus came from. And we can also see the definition. In this case, it's an ICAR test file. And a little bit of information about the actual file, which is very helpful. So you can see the nature of the virus and the file name itself. So you can see, as I spoke on before, we have a multiple embedded file where you have this zip after zip after zip. Again, an effort to get past that firewall and make its way to your internal LAN. Again, in a next generation firewall, this is one of the key features that you're going to be looking for, because ultimately a firewall is synonymous to security prevention, or security protection rather, and intrusion prevention. So we're going to want to be able to posture ourselves in a way that we're ensuring that our LAN is protected, our WAN is protected. And even if we have endpoint protection, this acts as that secondary gateway to prevent any other viruses from leaving the network, like I said, going to a botnet or something like that. And it prevents websites from connecting into your internal networks, maybe via a port forwarding statement or NAT statement, and getting inside access. So we hear that all the time in the news, and it can be devastating from a liability standpoint as well. So again, one of the key features to look for. And you want to make sure that your firewall is up to date, your virus signatures are up to date, 0 days are up to date, and they're constantly evolving too. So we want to make sure that overall we're going to be postured correctly. So our last bit that we're going to be talking about is web filtering. So one thing that I experience a lot is maybe a campus, like let's say a high school, for example, has a separate appliance doing web filtering or application inspection, and they want to size it to be an all-in-one solution. So they want to have their firewall, they want to have their web filter, they want to have their application filter. So this allows us now, with modern day appliances, to be able to sort of combine everything together. What that does is it creates sort of a single pane of glass, so we can see all our analytics in one different place. From a capital expenditure point of view, it allows us to consolidate and not have multiple appliances, separate. And if one appliance fails, this makes it a lot easier from a consolidation standpoint, to have everything in one box. Again, we always recommend high availability with our firewalls, so that would prevent, one box from failing, keeping you completely down. The other one would take over. But again, we're going to focus on web filtering and application filtering. This is really good in schools, like I said, and for our demonstration, we're going to see a high school environment, fairly complex, that's going to have multiple enforcement rules depending on what security group from an AD capacity you're going to be looked at. And it's going to apply these different filters to each security group and basically honor different websites based off of who you are. So for this particular example, we're going to see students having a more enforced traffic policy, meaning that they can't look at a lot of different sites, but maybe the staff has a little bit more leniency when it comes to sites like social media. So your Snapchats, your Instagrams, and anything else sort of in that realm. So here, this firewall has a lot more forwarding rules looked at it. You can see here that we have different firewall rules for different leadership, game design, staff, completely unrestricted, and different application policies that are attached to each one. Again, we're looking at our security policies over here. So we have our staff policy, application filtering policy meant for the staff. We have one strictly for this gaming and design class. So that will allow us to have sort of different logic, and it will allow us to effectively enforce different facets of the campus into different forwarding rules. And again, no limit into what you can do here. The logic's all built out already. We can filter by OU through AD. We can filter by subnet if you'd like to go that route. Again, we see it a lot with the bring your own device policy with wireless, that they have a special different forwarding rule for them. But again, the logic is all there and we can build it out. So once again, we're going to return to our security policies. We're going to go to the web filter now. This is different than the application filter. So this is going to look at web traffic only. Typically traffic that's going to be under 8443. The application side of things, we'll look at more application-based sites. So this is important because this gives us sort of the granularity that we need to maybe allow certain websites that aren't in a specific category or deny certain websites. We see that a lot where there might be a specific site that would be flagged under one of these categories right here that aren't natively allowed. So we can whitelist them to allow them to go through. So we see that pretty often. We also have these pre-built categories as well, which makes it pretty turnkey to be able to disable a lot of these and tweak from there based off of the end user results. In a classroom environment, SIPA is a big is a big deal for the most part. So we have to block different violent pornography categories that basically shouldn't be allowed to be viewed at by any of the kids. Now again, we're visiting the application control, which gives us our ability to look at unconventional applications, things that don't, or applications that don't connect over 443 or port 80. This allows us to look at them. Again, we're looking at a pre-created list. We can create our own if we'd like. So if we know the source and destination ports, we can actually create our own application and force it based off of that. That's something that we see often with VPNs, which are constantly looking for different ports. We have VPNs that just scan random ports and try to connect on basically anything they can find. This gives us a little bit more logic and a little bit more granularity to look at those. This particular application override will monitor a lot of those different sites, so it won't block anything. It will allow them through, but more importantly, it'll allow us to look in the logs on what others are looking at. So you can see here, Instagram's being blocked. One of the students is looking at it. This one is not tied to a particular user, so this is likely in a bring your own device policy where anyone can bring their device to the campus, get on the Wi-Fi. It'll be on the guest Wi-Fi, but again, that'll be heavily filtered. It will be natively blocked for most of the categories here. So again, this is the importance of having good analytics, especially when you have a solution that you'd like to scale out. So in this case, this particular school has about 2,000 to 3,000 students at any given time. We have a lot of different devices hitting the network at any given time, and a lot of it is internet-based traffic. So not so much east to west traffic in their data center, but north to south traffic, simply going from your LAN networks to the WAN and out to the internet. So this makes it really imperative that we are able to look at and block all the applications that are not needed on the network, both again from a liability standpoint and the standpoint of being able to police and determine, is this too bandwidth intensive? Is this inappropriate? Right. So there's a lot of good outcomes here. When we're able to look at all the forwarding traffic, when we're able to granularly look at forwarding rules that pick security groups, that pick subnets based off of company departments or based off of staff, student OUs. Again, that granularity is pretty unlimited, and that allows us to create sort of these logical blocks here that will create this picture of that we're seeing right now with our logs. So again, that's number 4 as far as one of the best features to look for in an NG or next generation firewall. Again, all these features allow us to create sort of a fabric of different specialties that you can all consolidate into a single appliance, which makes it pretty attractive. Let me go ahead and switch back over here. Okay, I think we're back here. So that pretty much concludes our first seminar on the NG firewall and the must-have features. Again, we're looking at QoS. We reviewed a little bit about how important QoS is from a prioritization standpoint, especially when it comes to voice over IP. That's something that we commonly see in most enterprise environments. We looked at deep packet SSL inspection, something that is very important when it comes to looking at what's on your network, shadow IT, what other people are looking at that we just can't see natively because of encryption considerations. 73% of all website traffic is encrypted, so that's something that we want to keep as a possible solution, is to be able to decrypt that with sort of a self-signed cert or some other HTTPS filtering. We looked at malware intrusion prevention, something extremely important, and probably one of the most important reasons you go with a next generation firewall is to increase your security posture, your perimeter posture. This will allow us to effectively police any malware that tries to get from your LAN to WAN environments, but it also allows us to prevent any foreign actors from trying to get inside via an outside port scanning, pin testing, anything to your internal networks. This will catch it. We demonstrated a real-time event where my zip files were being blocked in real time, and that was shown in the logs with my name and IP address associated with it. So that's very important too. And the last thing that we looked at is consolidating a web filter and application filter into a single appliance. Again, we're able to have all of these features under one roof, basically, with the FortiGate firewall. Now, we sell FortiGate a lot, but again, we want to make sure that you guys are aware that a lot of next generation firewalls will have these features too. It's about picking the right one, the one that you're more comfortable with, the one that maybe you have experience with the GUI already, or you know some of the ins and outs with the command line of whatever manufacturer you choose to go with. Again, we'd like to help you with that search and help you to find, just what is the right solution for you. So we'll evaluate that. We'll see if some of these features are something that you can benefit from and something that, will make your overall life a little bit easy, when it comes to managing your network. So again, thank you for attending today. Again, my name is Michael Maust. I'm the lead solution architect at Akins IT. I'd love to, meet with you guys again, and my email should be provided at the end of this webinar, and I'd love to answer any questions that you guys might have. Thank you.